kind.
It's your podcast. You're very welcome along. It's number 17 in 2021, which means we're into the second year of podcast, obviously. But all the way back in November 2019, we sat down in the gym in New Ross. It was myself. My name is Ken McGuire. This pair, Marina and Andy, and we had Shane O'Connor on the camera. Shane's not here this evening, and we're still doing everything remotely. But we're going for Marina and Andy for this episode, and it's a very special episode, and it's a very particular episode that has a very long and winding story as to how things have happened and unfolded and changed lives over the last couple of years. Before we get into anything at all, how are the pair of you doing? How are things? And Marina, it's lovely that you're here. I've waited since November 2020 to get you back on this and get you back in front of a camera and get you back on the microphone. How are you?
Thanks, Ken. Yeah, we're doing good.
Yeah.
We're doing good. I mean, I'm a little, as I always say, I'm more of a behind the camera type person. This is Andrew's forte, but we're in this together today.
It's good to have her back alongside me, Ken. I know you say you've been trying to get her on this for however long. I live with her, so I'm always like, "Come on, Marina, come on, let's get in and let's have another conversation." So yeah, delighted to have her beside me tonight now as well.
But we're
I don't know if people who listen to the podcast would want to listen like really intently. You might hear the little bit of laughter that comes kind of from the background under some of the interviews that we've had.
Where I'm comfortable.
The reason that we're having the chat tonight, and the reason that we're doing this podcast with yourselves in particular, Andy, we've covered a lot of ground. We've covered a lot of ground with you since we started doing this, and even pre-podcast times, with a lot of things that were happening with you from pretty much from the time you came back from the US until now. You were in the thick of training for BAMA. You had been out to Uriah Faber and to Team Alpha Male, and we covered a lot of that story with Uriah on episode 15. And in the wake of that, and in the weeks after it, something didn't quite click with you, and something didn't quite feel right, and it has transformed your life over the last couple of years, and by proxy has transformed Marina's life, and has had an impact on family and careers and business and everything else that goes along with it. So why don't you take it away? I mean, what are we talking about here?
Wow, yeah, it's hard hitting really, Ken, when you put it to me like that, because here we are. Something that I was thinking about before I came on and had this conversation tonight is that I came back from the US in May of 2017 after going out to Alpha Male for fight camp, getting ready for BAMA 30, which was to take place in Dublin on July the 7th in 2017. And on June the 17th, Saturday, June the 17th, I've been back from the States about maybe 2 weeks at this stage. But that was when this whole episode started with me. I got locked. On the 17th, I went to train in Dublin ahead of the fight on BAMA, and directly after training, I was finished training and just literally started getting dizzy. Let's just say, that's the first bout of vertigo that I experienced. Let's just say, but leading up to that training session, I had a bit of a flu. I had all these different weird kind of signs and symptoms of what was to come out. I had orange mucus coming out of my nose. I was pretty run down. I was pretty fatigued. I was battling through a training camp. But again, this is all stuff that I'm used to feeling sometimes a lot of time. Bar maybe orange mucus. And I actually did have a rash on my neck, which again, I just thought, okay, maybe just a little bit run down. On the Saturday itself, it was a very warm Saturday. I was, like I said, it was the 17th of June. So I was only about, 3-4 weeks away from fighting on BAMA 30. So I just thought, okay, I'm a little bit maybe run down from traveling back from the States, a little bit of jet lag, it was the end of the week training session. But what was scary was that day I was getting dizzy on the mat, and I kind of lay down as a fitness instructor and fitness professional. I thought, okay, maybe my blood sugar might be a little bit low. I'm going to lie down and elevate my feet a little bit here. You know, it was grand. I was thinking, okay, but what started to happen that whole remainder of the day, I remember on the Saturday, I was constantly getting dizzy. And when I say dizzy, I mean like falling down and standing back up kind of stuff. And obviously, because I competed in MMA, your first kind of worry is like, okay, is this head trauma related or something like that? Because, I had been sparring that day, but I hadn't taken any big shots. It wasn't like I got knocked out or anything like that. I was feeling great. I was literally in the prime of my life as an athlete. And what is kind of mad is that, I was 4 weeks out from fighting on Bama, and it got to Sunday. I remember waking up on Sunday after getting back from Dublin the Saturday or whatever. I remember Sunday morning waking up, and I was like, got to get out of my bed. I stood up and I fell back onto my bed. Like from sitting down to standing up, I fell backwards. And I was starting to get a bit worried then. I was like, this isn't right. I said to Marina, I was like, I'm still dizzy, And it wasn't until Tuesday that I actually decided to go to the doctor because I was just feeling very, very excited. I was literally standing up, I was falling down, I was putting my hand on the wall. What was weird was I was actually okay driving, but when I would stand up out to the car, that's when I'd be wobbly and I'd have to put my hand on something. So I made the decision on Tuesday. I was like, okay, well, I need to go to the doctor here. But also I put it off till Tuesday because I knew going to a doctor 4 weeks out from a fight that I'm going to a doctor telling this guy that I'm getting dizzy, I'm falling over, I've got, I don't know what the hell's going on, I'm scared. I knew I was going to get ruled out of this fight, even though I literally just had an amazing training camp. I was feeling brilliant. I was back from the States, had sparred like Clay Guida, been wrestling with Uriah, Cody Garbrandt, Chad Mendes, all these guys, perform at the best of my ability, let's say, with these guys. And I went to the doctor that Tuesday, and needless to say, he diagnosed vertigo. He said, okay, well, and you're meant to be fighting in 4 weeks' time. That's not happening. You're ruled out because we did a balance test. We had to stand. As a fighter, you always do this pre-fight medical. And basically, I failed my pre-fight medical. I couldn't even balance on one leg. Sometimes I could close my eyes and stand here now, thankfully. Let's just say I could do that. But then I was actually, again, hand on the bed, all that. So ruled out, basically. And I asked the doctor then, I said, okay, so I'm ruled out for the fight. That was hard to take. But I was like, okay, so what's the diagnosis? What's the story? He said, well, okay, so vertigo, take some rest, recharge, whatever. 4 weeks, you should be fine, whatever. So what is kind of mad now, Ken, is that, okay, I was disappointed. I was upset that I wasn't able to fight in 4 weeks' time. We ruled out the fight. But I was like, okay, well, there'll be another Bama now come September. I'll be able to get back on that card, take my rest, take my medicine, whatever, and then be back. And here we are now, Ken. I was getting 4 weeks diagnosis there that I'd be back to optimal health. And here we are 4 years later, and I'm sat here having a conversation with you on a podcast. And here I am now in my 12th month of antibiotics, hard-hitting antibiotics after getting diagnosed a year and a half ago with Lyme disease. And it's mad because I've been on such a journey that has affected not just myself, it's affected Marina, my family. People have been genuinely scared for me. I've been genuinely scared for myself, my own health, my own well-being. I've changed as a person, early days as well. I've kind of grown back to an element of myself now. But it's been an absolute, I'd say roller coaster. I wouldn't say roller coaster. It's a lot of it's been bloody down. It's been a real battle, and the reason why we wanted to do this podcast and really talk about it tonight was because it's probably the first time that I felt open enough to really delve deeper into this. And also just to let people know out there that you may look at someone on the outside in and think that everyone's fine, but no one knows what anyone's going through, and everyone's facing their own battles. But this has just been something that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, and that's being totally honest. Not that I have any worst enemies, but I wouldn't wish it on anybody, and the people who know it, most of those that are closest to me, they're the only ones that really see the deeper side of things,
Yeah, so, I think, so I was just going to say, we were going to do a podcast about our second year of business, and we couldn't have predicted COVID, but as Andy said, it's been going on so long. I don't think we could have talked about it before now, because he's coming out the other side of it. So to talk about it even now is probably going to be like therapy, because it's going on so long that, you know, I think if we had talked about it before then, not having an answer, it would have been very difficult, because you still don't see light at the end of the tunnel, whereas now we do, and he's so much better, so it's easier to talk about it.
Yeah.
So at this point, you have answers. At this point, you have a diagnosis. At this point, you have 12 months of hard-hitting antibiotics. There's an awful lot of stuff that happens between getting a diagnosis of vertigo and missing a fight over the space of 4 weeks to the diagnosis of Lyme disease. What's that? Nearly 2.5 years later.
Yeah.
Roughly two years.
We get an official diagnosis, whereby it's like, for me, my job, when someone comes into me in the gym, someone has a goal, and it's my job as a trainer to reverse engineer that goal that they have to get them to their goal. That's my job. That's what I do. I'm a specialist at it, and I do I think I do a very good job at it. My problem that I had throughout this whole journey was that I was seeing different people, I was being put to different people, I was seeing different specialists. At first, if I go back to early days, I saw that doctor and he said vertigo, you know, go and rest, recharge with a rest, lying down, all that.
Vertigo.
So that what happened was he told me to rest for 4 weeks. That was what I was told to do. I was told just rest and I will get better. And he also said it may be a case of stress. Now, I'll be honest with you, I was not stressed at that time. I would have thought, if you would have put Conor McGregor in front of me on Bama 30, mentally I was like, I had Rich, my sports psychologist. I was in shape of my life. Ask anybody, I spar anybody. I'm not afraid of anybody. I will do what I have to do to compete in that. I'm a very competitive guy. But you know what really annoyed me was I was told obviously to go rest, so I took that medicine whenever I rested. But 4 weeks on, I was still getting dizzy. I was starting to get scared, and then I was starting to get stressed. And I went back to the doctor 4 weeks later, and I said, "Look, something's not right here. I'm still getting dizzy. I'm still falling over. I'm starting to get." He said I was stressed at the start. I said I wasn't stressed, and I told him everything. I said, I'm happily married. I'm in a job I really enjoy in the arena. Meant to be fighting on Bama 30. In the shape of my life, not stressed, but I'll tell you now, I'm starting to get stressed. And what was starting to happen then, 4 weeks on from that then, Ken, was I was no longer just getting dizzy. I had a real fullness in the back of my head and my neck, and my upper back was getting really tight. And the fullness in my left ear, I literally wanted to try and shake something out of it. I was getting dizzy. I was getting a tight chest pain then, which was literally, if anyone's done MMA or any form of grappling, there's a technique called knee on belly, where someone puts a knee on your chest and puts all that weight on you. If you've ever felt that feeling, it's horrible, but that's what I was feeling like all the time. So I was really worried at that time. I said to the doctor, "Look, I'm getting stressed now." So then he actually prescribed these tablets. They're called Vertigon. So I was like, okay, so I'll take these tablets now, Vertigon. So now I'm getting a tablet. Yeah, you couldn't write this.
The Simpsons.
Here's the tablet, Vertigon. Vertigo will be off for you, kind of thing, and yeah, and again, because the doctor was giving me them, I took them, and I was expecting to feel better. But what started to happen then was I started to get really drowsy on them, really drowsy, and it was making me even worse. So I wasn't really getting too dizzy, let's just say, but I was my speech was starting to slur and things like that. Wasn't great. So I actually stopped taking them. And it was actually then that I started to get really worried, and I actually went back to that. I said, "Look, I'm gonna need a scan or something now." So something's not right. I said, I was getting dizzy, had vertigo, knew that much. Anyway, let's just say the pain in my chest was getting worse. The fullness in my head was getting terrible. The fullness in the ear was getting terrible. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't think. I was really struggling.
You couldn't think straight, and you couldn't concentrate.
And the other thing what's happening then, Ken, was that I'm a very outgoing, very happy, very chatty guy, and I wasn't talking to anybody. I would see a friend and I would walk the other way because I wouldn't want to communicate. I wouldn't want them to see me that way. I started to really go within myself. I was at this point then, I was saying to the doctor, look, I may get a scan or something like that, But what was mad was, it wasn't until 8 weeks after the initial Saturday that I finally got a brain scan. Like if you're any thug or any poor person that's unfortunate enough to get into a fight on a Saturday night, as you're taken in, you'll be getting a brain scan straight away. They'll be scanning your brain to make sure that you're okay, whatever. I was 8 weeks on, and no brain scan, none of that stuff. So I had to ring the Whitfield myself to follow up. And I said, look, I've been waiting this like the time now for scan, blah, blah, blah. What's going on? And I got quite angry on the phone. And what happened then was they actually got me in the next day. So by me taking action myself, I got in and I got the scan done. And again, everything came back all clear. So while it was good that I was getting a brain scan that came back all clear, I still was none the wiser for it. So I then got referred to an ENT specialist, so an ear, nose, throat specialist then. So because they're saying this is affecting your vestibular system, your dizzy, your balance, coordination, all that sort of stuff. So I had to go and see an ENT specialist in Waterford. I won't name names, but I had to see this guy. And when I went in, I was the way that I am now. I was kind of bubbly. I was going in hope. I was like, okay, well, this must be it now. I'm going to see this ENT specialist. He's going to put me right. I'll be back training. I'll be back to myself in no time. Went in anyway. My appointment was at like 2 o'clock, and I was in and out by 2:15. And what happened was, which was kind of mad, because I went in, and when I was in the office and I was explaining all the signs and symptoms, I could see an Excel spreadsheet in front of me with names. And my name was one of them at 2 o'clock. Then there was another person booked in at 2:15. There was another person in at 2:30. So in my head, I'm automatically thinking, this guy is not going to solve this problem in 15 minutes. As an instructor myself in terms of health and fitness, when I do an assessment with someone, I'll be sitting down talking to them for normally at least about 45 minutes if I'm doing a PT session or if I'm taking someone in for an assessment. I'm getting a real kind of history of them. I'm trying to figure out, what the background of well-being. I'm doing a screening form with them and all that. I didn't get really anything from this appointment. And, I was sent into another specialist in Dublin to get all these kind of reaction time stuff done. I can't remember what the name of it was, but it was in the Beacon, I think it was. Was it the Beacon?
There's so many appointments you've had, because didn't you go to Cork?
Yeah, vertigo kind of specialist as well. But
see, for me as well, there's been so many different appointments, and there could be like months between them or weeks between them.
And each time you're going in hope, and again, I saw, then I started seeing after that didn't work out. I went to see a chiropractor, and then you see, you're then given like what's called an epley maneuver, because I still kind of get a bit, I'm still getting dizziness bouts and all that. So once I got an epley maneuver done, so I kind of really put you on your side and then back onto your back and then onto your side, the dizziness went. So I was delighted with that. But the problem that I had was I still had this horrible fullness in the back of my head, the tightness in the chest, the fullness in the left ear was still there. I was losing weight then at this stage then as well. Even though I was eating well, I couldn't keep my weight up. My bowels were affected then as well. It sounds quite bad, but you could tell that my food wasn't being absorbed. It was just a nightmare now, if I'm totally honest.
Extreme fatigue. You were you'd be falling asleep, you'd have to take naps. Do you remember?
Constant
and
naps.
As well as if he'd hurt himself, sorry if this is like the time frame's way off now, but I remember he stubbed his toe once. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Like anything that, if we just like stubbed our toe or whatever, you'd be grand maybe the next day. But I remember with that particular, I was kind of like, yeah, you'd be grand tomorrow. Why does he keep going on about it? And then tomorrow is still, and he's still talking about it like a week later. So nothing was healing. Nothing was getting better. If he hurt himself or his elbow, the burst out, nothing was getting better. So, and I remember you had that time of the fight as well. So that it was all just these little things that there just weren't connected, but there were so many of them. So you know what I mean? From the fatigue to the the stiffness in the chest. There just seemed to be so many things that he was naming out each time. Each week there was like a new symptom or a new problem almost, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was all linked. It's just been such a long journey. And what was really hard was like, so that was May, when I came back, when I first got the effects of all this. But what was mad was in September of that same year, it was my dad's 60th birthday. And he, as a family, we all went over to Zakynthos, an island off Greece. Now, what was meant to be like such a really lovely time, we went anyway, September. I'm still battling all this stuff. I'm actually getting worse at this stage. I'm far worse than that Saturday. I'm already now at the stage where, fair enough, I'm not getting dizzy, but the problem now is I've got this horrible brain fog, fullness in the ear, tightness in the chest. My weight is coming down. I'm not feeling great.
I'm not thinking straight.
I can't think. Can't write stuff down. I love writing. I love reading. I'm very much like, I love training. I couldn't train properly.
Social, you love chatting.
Yeah,
you couldn't do that.
Couldn't train properly. Really, really struggling. Literally crying out for help. Like, I was kind of anytime I could write anything, I would write stuff down. Start to journal things so that I could try and figure out things, because I wasn't getting help from so-called specialists. So I was like, okay, I'm kind of on my own here now.
So if you think about going on holiday, you think, you'll de-stress and you relax, and what could be stressful about going on holidays? Oh my God. Yeah. It was so stressful for the two of us, wasn't it? He just wasn't himself at all. And we had Nathan. If you think back, like, Nathan is 5.5 now. He was a year and a half back. This time long ago
already.
Yeah. Yeah.
So dealing with the toddler on holidays, I mean, I think it was day 2. I was Googling flights home. We just couldn't. He couldn't handle being there. He just couldn't handle just being yourself. It just got so bad. And do you remember that time? We always think back to, and we always say like about Instagram or just in general, you never know what people are suffering with. And we had this lovely photo of me and Andy and Nathan, and it's gorgeous. And like, 20 minutes before that picture was taken, this picture perfect photo was taken, Andy was in the bathroom crying because he just couldn't handle what he was feeling at that time. And it was just so stressful and so hard. And for me, I can't help it. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can say. You're trying your best to be there, but you've no answer to give. If the doctors don't have answers for you, I certainly don't. And God, that was definitely another low point.
That was like, I was kind of like, not like pity me, because I'm very much like the type of guy that's always like, when you're having a bad day, there's always someone out there worse off than you. I always say that, like, but at that time, I remember being in the bathroom. I was like, why me? I was like, what? Like, and I hate saying that, because I'm very much a positive guy, and I put a lot of positive stuff out there, and I was kind of like, but I was really struggling. I was so struggling. I was like, I'm on a Greek island with all my closest, like my closest family, like who I would want to be with. No stress outside of like where I'm at, like, but my health is absolutely rock bottom. And what's worse right now is I don't have an answer. I don't know what is going on with me. I'm struggling. Like, I would have one good day in maybe 10. And sometimes that one good day would be kind of horrible as well, because I'm having a really good day and I think, okay, I'm on the way out of it. And then the next day I could be wiped. I could be in a bed that I'm not getting up out of. And you're trying to think, you're like, shit, what is going on? Like, only like, I'm thinking that's September 2017. And I'm like, only 3 months back, I'm sparring the best guys in the world, and I'm at the top of my fucking food chain here. I'm like, it was really tough. Like, and I guess in many ways, being a fighter, like in many ways as well, you're kind of like, okay, well, let's just fucking like, hands up, chin down, elbows, and just keep moving forward. Let's just keep going. But at that day and that time, I was really struggling. And I'll be honest with you, and I don't really like talking too much about it, but like, I had a post up this morning saying about knowing your why. And I'll be totally honest with you, only for the fact that like I had Marina and Nathan especially. Nathan has been my why since before he was born, like knowing that Nathan was coming into the world, he has been my why. But that was a real struggle, because then I was like, you know, I just want to be able to. I had gone at that point, Ken, from having a mindset of like, okay, I've got to get back now. I want to get back. I've got to get back to fight now in, say, September. Now we're actually in September. I've gone into Kintas. Now I'm like, okay, I've gone from wanting to get back to fight to now wanting to get back just because of a coffee and a conversation with Marina and being able to play with Nathan. That was where my mindset shifted to. It wasn't a case of getting back. Like, literally went from
let's get better to compete to let's get better to be able to just have a coffee with, you know, to function. Yeah, like as you say, like in work, he's you know him, he's a social butterfly, like, and he'd be just avoiding people like wherever we went. And I remember we met friends in the shop one day, and Andy was just like just there but not there, and you know, and you think you don't know, that kind of notices it. So he's just chatting away, and then we're gone, and you know, we're just used to living our lives this way, and we kind of forget. And then like it was a few months later, or maybe a year or two later, he met that same guy, and he said, God, I remember meeting you that time in Penny's, and you weren't yourself at all. I remember saying to my girlfriend, we walked away, geez, Marsh didn't see himself. He just seemed like, you know, you're just
pale, gaunt.
But you weren't even the conversation. You're just vacant. But yeah, like, and even for me, it's going on so long. Sometimes you forget what he's going through, and you know, you're just living your life because it's years later. Like it's a year later, 2 years later, however long, and he'll walk into the kitchen someday and he'll be pale as a ghost. He'll be just gaunt. The eyes are sunken. If you touch his hands, they're like freezing cold, and you just don't know what kind of a day he's going to get. And you know, they're like the reminders where you know you're just like trying to deal with a toddler or whatever, and he's just trying to just get through that day, you know. And then the next day he could be like totally fine again, and the color's back and the warmth is back in. But it's mad to think how long it's going on, and everything we've been through. Like, you know, just thinking back, it's crazy. It really is. There's just been so many times where you're up and you're down, and you kind of start to think, okay, are you ever going to get through this? And what do we do? Do we just try and learn to live with it and just hope that if there's an occasion like a family wedding or a christening or whatever, that it's going to fall on a good day, as we used to call them, his good days and his bad days. And, you know, I remember his brother got married, which is something that, you know, you love to go to a family wedding, and he, of course, was best man, and you're praying that he's going to have one of these good days. And, oh my God, it was so stressful as well, wasn't it? And, you know, it's just, you're dealing with this, and, you know, you can't tell people because it's, where do you start? You know, if somebody says to you, oh, well, how's Andy? You're just going to go grand, or, you know, grand. Like, what do you start? There's a list. You could bring a little notebook around with a list of symptoms, but people don't want to hear that, of course. And it's too much when you can't just label it. It's too much to get into. So you end up kind of saying, oh yeah, grand, or just a bit of vertigo.
At this stage, outside of yourselves, and you've just been on that like giant family holiday, you've got your brother's wedding in the picture. What do the family and the extended family know? What are they aware of?
In fairness,
we've always told family. Yeah,
family knew. And if I'm honest, Ken, like my dad's a psychiatric nurse. He's dealt with addiction for his whole career. He was a psychiatric nurse for the Moore's murderer, Ian Brady. And like, again, maybe that's where I get a lot of my mindset from as well. Like, you know, where like I remember my dad had a letter up on his office at home, and it's a dark letter from Ian Brady, you know. And I always said to my dad, like, why do you have that up there? And he always said back to me as well, I'll keep that there, so when I'm having a bad day, I know there's worse people out there than me. And again, that's where I got what I just said a few minutes ago from. But like, my family were exceptional to me and for me, and helped me out huge, as Marina's. My dad was great, I have to say, because he initially started, when I wasn't getting help from anybody, he was the one who kind of said, look, write down like your food, write down what you're having in a day. So if you have a good day, you know what's going on. Write down, like start journaling basically. So like when you have a bad day, you know, you can kind of look back as to what did you eat, what triggered anything, you know, what did you do in terms of exercise wise, did you do anything even, because I wasn't doing much exercise, but what did happen to me, Ken, anytime I felt kind of good, I'd go and train with Miles and Mick, because that's all I knew. I was like, man, I can get back, I want to get back. But there were so many times that I was training and I'd be back in the car in Kilkenny, I'd be crying. I remember ringing Ray and saying, can you ring work for me and tell them I won't be in today? Because I'd go home, I'd lie in bed for the rest of the day, because that was what training did to me. It wiped me out completely. I could be bedbound for a couple of days. But my dad was very good with that, and my mom obviously as well, being a nurse, she helped me out hugely as well. Anything, like as parents, I couldn't have better parents. I couldn't have a better support network around me. I'm very blessed to have that. But I could see it was taking a toll on them too, because they were genuinely scared for me. I think it's something I've learned as a dad now as well. And I think it's something I've experienced, please God, for a long, long time, whereby it doesn't matter how old your child is, they're still your child. And I could see there was worry in my mom and dad, and my grandma in England always, whenever I talk to her, she always, I do always pray for you every night, Andrew. Like, just say that to me even now. I'm feeling a hell of a lot better with myself now. There was genuine worry for me. Because they could see it, you know. Whereas when I went to a doctor, you know, I got to the stage where I went to the same doctor that I'd been to, and this is where like I started to get upset now, because I went to a doctor.
Yeah, before you went to that appointment, we used to, and the worst thing you can do is Google symptoms, but we used to Google anything because we were so desperate to find out what this was. So I remember one day going, oh, this is what it is. And because if you Google get any symptoms, especially with Lyme, you're going to find everything. It's a disaster, but you're so desperate. So I remember finding something. I was like, oh, maybe this is it. Go to the doctor, try and go to a different doctor, because this guy's going to think you're insane. So try to go to a different, don't mention that you're an MMA fighter, because you're going to get labeled, oh, you're an MMA fighter, head trauma. So you're playing with all these different emotions and things in your head. You know, tell them to go to a different doctor. You know what I mean? And tell them don't mention MMA. But I remember saying, and then of course you went and you got the same doctor, and
yeah,
the doctor.
So yeah, long story short, went and he sat down and he said, okay, well, do you know what? He tried to diagnose depression, Ken, and the way I looked at it was this. Like, as I said, my dad's a psychiatric nurse. I said to the doctor, I said, right, okay, so you're telling me I'm depressed. I said, I came to you initially with dizziness and fullness in the back of the head. And I said, now it's got to the stage where I'm really struggling. I said, obviously I'm stressed, fullness in the back of the head, dizziness has gone now at the stage, but I've got tightness in the chest, fullness in the back of the head. I'm losing weight. I can't keep weight up. I'm extremely fatigued all the time. I'm bedbound a lot of the time. I still want to do things, but I can't do things. Can't read properly, can't write stuff that I want to write down, can't think properly.
I'm still positive.
I'm still. By the way, when I'm going through this, I'm still reading books. I'm trying to read books. I was going to a yoga class next door to my house here, which is full of nothing but like 60, 70, 80-year-old women, because it's the only thing that I could do on a Tuesday and Thursday. I'm not even joking. I went in, a lovely lady called in, and I went in, and there was nothing but, like I said, 60, 70, 8-year-old women. I was the only guy in there. I was going in for an hour and 10 minutes every Tuesday. I used to drop Nathan and Brooke. No, Brooke wasn't born, so I used to drop Nathan to creche, 9:30. And at the same time, in the community centre, there would be yoga starting to take place. So I went in that first day, and there was nothing but the old ladies there. Did the class anyway. I felt great after it, in terms of I had an hour and 10 where I was literally just doing this, touching my shoulders, arms out, lying down, doing the shavasana, all that sort of crack. It was just an hour and 10 to just switch off from Lyme that I didn't know about, whatever, at the time.
What you were saying was with the doctor, but having dealt with all of these things and still being positive, to be then told it's depression. Like for me, okay, so every time Andy would have one of these appointments, I can't take the day off work. He has to take the day off work, and then you have the cost of going to Dublin or Cork, and then you have the cost of the appointments. So all of this is adding up, and you don't care because you're hoping this is it. This will be the answer. Yeah. And I'm at my desk in work, hoping he's getting on okay. And it sounds odd, but you're hoping for a diagnosis. Yeah. And
you just want to know, though.
you want to know. So like I'd be there at my desk and work, like waiting to see Andy's name coming up on the phone to answer, just to be like, well, you know, any news, or what's the crack, or what do you think it is? And, you know, it would always be a sad answer, and I can hear it in his voice, and he's down and then I'm down, and, you know, you're trying to then get on with your day. But I remember the day he rang me with this, and I said, hold on a second now. If there's anything, you're not depressed. And I remember he was just so down hearing that. I was like, don't even let him convince you that this is what this is. I know you're not depressed. And look, just forget about that now, and just we'll get sorted.
And I must say on this as well, like, because when the doctor said that to me, I did come back to him and say, well, look, okay, so you're telling me I'm depressed, but like, to go back here now and say, like, I'm in a job I really enjoy. There's no stress there. I'm happily married. I have a son who I love to bits. I had been fighting at the highest level that I'd been at, and was just back from alpha male. I was in a great place physically, mentally. I eat clean. I don't drink. I don't smoke. So you're telling me I'm depressed, and by taking this tablet that you're telling me to take, then that's going to miraculously make me feel better. You know, it was probably one of the lowest points, if not the lowest point for me, because I was like, okay, I started to realize then this person isn't really trying to help me here. It's trying to just get me out to the office.
It's when we lost all faith in it. You know, we
kind
of felt like we were on our own as it was, but that day was a real low point. And I remember thinking, there's nobody here to help us. Like we are so on our own with this. We really have to make some changes to try live with it. And that's kind of what we started to do. Yeah. That's when we started to listen to podcasts and research just not what was wrong, but how to live better, I suppose, heal. So that's when we kind of changed our diet and started looking into just eating like whole foods. And, you know, like it always bothers me with people.
That's a big move to make when you still don't know what it is that you're dealing with. I mean, you've relied on experts so far to get you answers that you can't get. And the more experts you go and see, the less answers that you're actually able to get. So now you're talking about making adjustments for something, or saying that, okay, we're going to have to live with this. We're going to have to deal with this, but we still don't know what this is. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's something that I do now with the gym is that, like, for me anyway, it's like, well, okay, I had no help from the specialists and the powers that be, let's say, the people that you give power to, let's just say. So as Marina said then, we said, okay, well, like, if we're not going to get any help, let's try and figure out what we do. So we started just like, I would eat pretty clean anyway, but like what started happening was we just started to really eat whole food, more plant-based diet. And again, I talked about this recently with Richard, like Rich Shannon, sports psychologist. He had done obviously psychology sessions with me and visualization drills specifically towards fighting. And then I remember ringing Rich and just said, hey, Rich, you know, is there any chance you could do an audio for me just to visualize healing? Now, that sounds very voodoo, doesn't it, I guess? And people might think, he's full of whatever. But literally, I was such a low point that I just wanted to visualize feeling well again, because it had been such a long time, or it felt such a long time for me feeling well, that I needed to start really visualizing feeling better again. So I started to do that every night, then going to bed. I put the headphones on instead of me visualizing, you know, getting into the banner cage to fight Dylan Logan. I literally visualized starting to feel well again. And the idea that, you know, something that kept playing over every night was that you never touched the same, your hand never touched the same river. You know, we're in constant change. And that what I started to do then was that, like, really kind of took kind of autonomy myself and just started to, even though you wouldn't sometimes notice massive changes in a day or two as a result of these small changes, you know, by me making these small changes over time, I did start to feel a little bit better. So, you know, in terms of getting to bed earlier, to getting to sleep, to having a sports psychology with Rich, but change it to more visualizing healing, to then eating more whole foods, drinking more water, giving up things like dairy, stuff that would make my body inflamed. We started then going to events such as, like, even like the Happy Pair. That's how we met, like Dave and Steve at an event there, Rich Roll, we really started to look at a holistic view of healing the body and the mind as well, because the mind is a big thing. And I guess, you know, I'm a very positive guy, but negativity started to creep in because all I was hearing was negative feedback from these specialists who weren't able to help me. And it was only, funnily enough, Thomas Keogh messaged me one time. You know Thomas from Team Kilkenny, and Tom's a pharmacist, and he just told me, he messaged one day, he said, look, all of your stuff like sounds very like Lyme. You were in California, in Sacramento. Was there any signs? Did you get bitten? Did you anything like that? And funny enough, what was mad was I was back, and you can see clearly in the photo there's a rash on my neck. And this is kind of where I started to get on the journey of like, okay, we're maybe onto something here now. Things are starting to add up. And Tom said about, you know, Lyme, and researched a little bit of that, and we saw the rash on the neck and the fact that like these symptoms, like it's Lyme disease is the great imitator, because it imitates a lot of other illnesses, like say your MS, your Crohn's disease, all these things that people get misdiagnosed with. Depression is another one. Again, Thomas was someone who kind of said to me as well, he kind of finds it frustrating that a lot of doctors just fire the prescription pill of depression at people. And it's something that's maybe why I wanted to come on this podcast tonight and talk about it, because I do feel there's a lot of people out there suffering with this illness that haven't been diagnosed yet, and are wondering what the hell is going on with them. So that kind of put me on the journey to, you know, where we got to with eventually Dr. Lambert. You know, I got a referral, then I saw a different doctor. I saw Dr. Ty Crowley in Kilkenny. He sat down, he listened to me. You know, he took everyone on board.
He was the first doctor that actually took out a piece of paper and a pen and was ready when Andy started talking, and he started writing down everything Andy said. And I remember thinking, this guy's going to listen. This is the first time we're going to be heard of what's, you know, honestly, these little things, they're just like a weight off your shoulder. Do you know that?
Completely. And in fairness, what happened then was that around the time I saw Dr. Crowley, I had kind of reached out in MMA terms, and I've been struggling. And what happened then was I actually got an appointment with neurologist Dan Healy in Beaumont, and Dan looks after all of your high-profile fighters, you could say, in Ireland. You know, he would have been neurologist for most of the SBG fighters. You know, most people in MMA terms, if you've had any sort of head trauma, any stuff like that, Dan is your man, literally. So I got to see Dan in Beaumont, and Dan again was another guy who he was just brilliant. He did any test and any scan possible. He did everything. You couldn't like any scan. Like, you know, I had brain scan done again, and he would get a brain scan on that. Well, he did an ECG on me. He checked the heart because the tightness in the chest was there. So the first, like, I kind of knew it wasn't anything to do with my heart, because like my cardio has always been good, background that I never had any chest pains, this, that. But we checked it in because I was telling him about like the tightness in my chest. He actually saw he did endless blood. Oh my good God, Marina came out. I'm terrible with needles. I couldn't.
He's really bad at needles.
I'm really bad at needles.
And he was like, he had to get blood taken, but I could see the pile of, you know, the little little things that they take to go. Oh my God! And I was like, he has no idea, and I was trying my best not to laugh, but I'm obviously just evil. And I could see the nurse, I could see Andy down like this, and the nurse like, "Do you want to lie down?" He's like, "Yeah, I think I should lie down." He's like this, and I'm like this. Like, I could see bottle after bottle, and I'm like, this fella's gonna faint.
I turned to him and said, "I'm gone," and I was out.
I'm gone, and I'm just like pretending I care, and I couldn't stop laughing.
I woke up again to the usual Andrew. I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, I don't know. But
do you know what? There's so many times during this when you don't have your low days, you have days where you're like, we need to laugh about this. And that's when we actually started talking about writing a book. And I remember saying to him one day, God, Andy, you can write a book. So then we used to come up with like the name and chapter names, you know, all these puns. So we used to just try to laugh about it whenever we could, because it's just, like I said, if you don't laugh,
again, you know, like Dan had set me up with appointments, like, and I had an appointment with a psychologist. Like, he literally did everything, and the psychologist, man, the appointment psychologist, that was all fine. I was like, as if say, yeah, he's fine. There's nothing wrong psychologically with this guy, you know. But you know, and all the bloods were coming back clear and stuff. So again, while everyone was coming back, like I said, Dan was great. He wrote down everything, and I went back to him follow-up times all the time. But a year later on, Marina came with me to Dan, and Dan read out all the signs and symptoms that I initially had, and then he read out kind of where I was at now. And it was like, okay, we've not cured this thing, but a lot of the initial symptoms are kind of gone, you know. And again, this was as a result of the work that we had put in ourselves in terms of our food, the healing, the visualization, all this sort of stuff. But there was one still big problem, was that I still had a lot of fatigue. I still had the tightness in the chest a lot of the time. And basically my weight was really low. I couldn't keep my weight up no matter how much I was eating. And another thing that was kind of hurting me quite a bit, and maybe I didn't show it too much, was that like even with the gym situation, you have to lose a bit of weight, and
that's what I found.
And it's not, just look at you, it's not a pick on you, and you're kind of like
people making comments.
Like,
I know they don't mean anything by it, but telling somebody they look wrecked and they look pain and they look tired, and it's like, I know, but you know, what do you say? Yeah, well, we think he has Lyme disease. You know, it's so hard. And if you've just had a tough day or a tough morning, and you've got somebody going, Jesus, he's quite pale, Jesus, he's after losing some weight. It's very hard. It's really hard to listen to. It's you know,
so
you just feel so helpless.
To go from that, like after seeing Dan for that, and I saw him that follow up, I then was kind of starting to try and get, okay, I was like, if this is where I'm at now, like I want to get back doing MMA, I want to be training, it's what I love doing, passionate about it, let's try and get back on the horse. And I started to get back doing MMA again. Was really struggling, was not the athlete that I was. Well, I'm just a stubborn guy. I just kept turning up, and it's that idea of that mentality of like, just show up, because if you show up, you're going to get better, you're going to improve. And like, technically I was starting to get a little bit better, I was starting to drill a few things and all that, but my engine was not there. I was just weak as hell.
In hindsight, like, you know, now if you're having like a sluggish day, you hear people go, hit the gym, get an exercise session and go for a walk, you're going to feel way better. And that was the attitude obviously Andy had, and he'd go and do these training sessions. But now in hindsight, knowing what he has, it's the worst thing you can do. And in fact, he should be taking his rest when he can, because the more you do, the more you're shot from it.
Yeah, but something I always say is hunt the field, not the photo. But I wanted to get back there, because in my mind I was like, okay, if I get back in the cage, I get in, I get a fight. Like, once I'm in there, I'll be fine, you know. And even like a half fit Andy can beat this guy, whoever it was, an MTK that was meant to fight. Went over there and to stub toe, like I said, was not feeling great at all. Took the fight, lost. But I was like, oh yeah, cool. I got to experience the walk again. I was in the cage. But I knew, I was like wasn't me anyway. But I got out of that fight anyway, and I remember seeing Dan a little while later, you know, and I was telling him, like, I really just want to get back. So, you know, it's my identity, and you know, I love doing it. Like, and he asked me this question, something that Dan asked me when Marina was with me as well. I was like, what do you do for fun, Andy? And I was like, well, like, you know, I grapple, I wrestle, I roll, I do pads. I love that. Was, yeah, but what do you do for fun? I was like, yeah, that's all stuff. And I didn't know what he was getting at me with this. But what he meant was, like, you know, he said to me, well, like, Andy, that's also your job. You know, and it changes when it becomes your job, it becomes a profession, and you're doing it as well also because, you know, you're getting paid to do it, and it's something that, like, you know, you have to perform at a high level, whatever. So I understood that then, you know. So again, another part of this whole stuff was then I started to really hone in on rest and like recharge and all that. But again, like I said, I was still struggling. I had to go to a vertigo or a vestibular system place in Cork. I was doing all these drills, like a little X on my thumb and moving this way and this way to get my reactions back and all that. My reactions were bloody terrible. So anyway, what happened then, long story short, was I was meant to fight Dylan Logan on Alabama 30 back in July the 7th, whatever, 2017. This is 2019.
The MTK fight was July 2018. It would have been a year after Bama.
Yeah. So then going on from that, then, like, you know, we I guess I'm after skipping there, opening urban gym. Like
I know, see, there's so many
many turns and stuff. But
and that's what I mean. Like you realize, okay, we have to get on with our lives here. You just have to learn to live with it. And then we open the gym.
Yeah.
And I think that's another reason we want to do this, is because some people don't know Andy pre-Lyme and they don't know the real Andy. And then there's some people who have only met him this way, and the best is yet to come.
Yeah, kind of. Like I do always say that. Like, I've like, again, I was getting ready for I signed a contract to fight Bellator, like, and Dan was kind of like, wait, Andy, you're after all your symptoms and all that. I said, like, I'm 30 at the time. I was 30. I'm 35 now, so I was 33. I was like, Bellator have come knocking. It's the second biggest organization in the world. Yes, I'm not feeling great, but like, if I say no to this, they're not going to come knocking on my door again, probably. So look, this will be a fight on Bellator. This will be my last fight. Win or lose, I'm doing it. I'm just turning up. I said, don't care. Like, whatever happens, happens. But I am walking into that Bellator cage, and I'm going to try and get in the best shape that I can personally get in the shape that I'm in right now. So that whole fight camp, like, it was a bloody battle, like, because I was opening the gym. We're doing all this sort of stuff then as well. We're opening urban gym. Because, again, I just made the decision that, like, Richard Chan asked me a question, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And opening my own gym has always been something I wanted to do, but I've always been too afraid to do because of the whole business side of things, tax, VAT, rent, rates, all that sort of stuff. Even though I've done this line of work for 15 years, I know it like the back of my hand at this stage. But that was always my big fear, just going out on my own. And I just said, you know what? I've been so sick. I've been so unwell that I want to create a happy place whereby I look forward to going into work every day. It's a place where I can be myself and, my best self, let's just say. And I can help others. As a result of my own trauma, I can then help people through fitness and create something for myself, my family, and then those that are coming into the gym to create better lives for everybody in the community, let's just say. So doing that anyway. And obviously got to open urban gym, made that big jump.
And we had Brooke in between.
And we had Brooke in between that as well.
Another baby in between all of this.
And we make the walk to Bellator to fight Dylan Logan, who was the guy that was meant to fight all those years back. I just wanted this chapter over my life. I wanted to get the hand raised. And it could have been very different on that night. Like, I walked in, I enjoyed the whole fight week. Wasn't feeling great, in terms of like my weight. I didn't have to cut weight. I was actually walking around at that weight. I used to walk around at 74, 75 kilos normally and cut to 66. I was walking around at 68, 69. So I only had to literally go to the toilet literally in the morning, then I'd be there making weight, So I went in not really that healthy, whatever. Not taking anything away from Dylan either, by the way, fantastic fighter. And a really good guy as well. But I just got that done. I remember Dan Healy sent me a message fight week, said, Andy, I hope you're enjoying fight week. Just make sure to enjoy fight week.
And that's the key. That's why as hard as it was with dealing with all of this, he was starting to lose his identity as Andy, the fighter. Mm-hmm. And that's what I hated. It's like it was being forced, retirement was being forced on him rather than it being his choice. And I knew that was a real struggle for him as well. Yeah. So that's why I was going to 100% support him to take that fight and just enjoy the process. It's not about win, lose. It's about going to the event and taking part and doing it all and enjoying every second of it, because I kind of knew then he was getting near the end of it.
Yeah, it was that last minute there. It was just really hard that, like I said, the retirement was forced upon me. It wasn't my own decision with it. It was a decision, but it was like my body wasn't allowing me to do what I wanted to do.
Not when you're at the peak. That it was a real struggle mentally to deal with that as well as everything else.
Yeah. Not to rewrite history or anything, but if the result had been any way different at Bellator, and the hand had been raised, was there ever that little moment of going, oh, maybe I've got this, and I'm back and say the things, and I'm sure I can go again.
Well, if I go back to that fight, it was competitive. That's the other side to it. I know it was a first round loss, but this is the mad thing about the situation. Like I did everything that I could do to get myself to that fight, made the weight, made the walk. I visualized landing the heavy right hand, didn't feel my power, saw the eyes roll back. I landed every shot, even said in his post-fight interview, didn't expect to get hit as hard. And then even with the way it went to the ground, like I attempted a guillotine, which again I was visualizing guillotine finish. I have a high percentage in my guillotines. Went to the ground, was visualizing heel hooks, had a potential heel hook there. He scrambled out, again, took my back, and then I defended the choke, defended the arm, and then again, scrambled again. He just won the scramble, got the arm. It was a beautiful transition to a win. But it could have been very different. If that right hand had put the lights out there, and then, you know, my hand was raised, and if I had been able to finish that heel hook there, twist and turn and connect properly, the whole story has changed, and I won that fight. Let's just say.
But
either way, Ken, my body was on a red light. I knew I could make it to Bellator, and that was it. Like I knew. And even the conversation with Andy Ryan on the next morning, like my head coach, you know, he'd even said that, you know, training wise wasn't the same as Bama 28. You know, you need to get back to doing work. But he didn't understand. Not that he didn't understand, but like he didn't know how sick I was.
Yeah.
Because I've done to train. I'm training mainly with Miles Dick and Kilkenny. He didn't see firsthand all the stuff that I've been going through.
There's a lot of
and I couldn't do it. A lot of people didn't see it. Even if I'm honest, I hit it pretty well from Miles and Mick. And what's kind of mad about all this, because I've skipped a very, very important part, and hopefully get towards a happier end, let's just say. But before all of this, like, you know, Marina was pregnant with Brooke, our second child. I nearly skipped over Brooke here. But like, what's mad about this whole situation is that I'm really proud to be a dad. I love being a dad. Like, I've already mentioned that Nate is my wife. Brooke is also my wife now. So, but like, at the time, I remember Marina was pregnant with Brooke, and she was afraid to tell me that she was pregnant because she was upset that she was worried at how it would affect me and my healing, because she knows how tough having a newborn is, and that it could possibly negatively affect my health further. So she was really worried about telling me that she was pregnant with Brooke. I was actually nearly a joke of the family, not a joke, but like there was a laugh of the family, because I was the last to know.
No, you weren't the last.
No, as in no, but as in like, you know, I didn't know.
No, what it was you didn't know the signs. Yeah, well, I always say Andy lives in Andy land anyway. He wouldn't see that. But what it was I knew I was pregnant. It was just me, and I knew obviously he was going to be thrilled. But it's when you're at a low point with your health, and you know, okay, a newborn brings, you're already extremely fatigued and stressed. You know yourself. I knew that, okay, this is going to be another little stress thing that he's going to be overthinking and dreading the sleepless nights and the extra stress that he won't be able to be the best version of him. And I just kept it to myself. And I remember thinking, okay, I think I was at like week 6, I don't know, whatever week I was at, okay. And I remember bringing him into Jeff's, because we used to love going in there for hot chocolate. And I said, I was like, so how you feeling? You know, how you feeling yourself? Like, and he'd be like, yeah, I'm not too bad. Like, and I'm like, well, like out of 10, how you feeling? And he said a 6. And I was like, okay, he's a 6. He's not really. Well, I'll wait another week. Sure, what's another week or whatever? And whatever, another couple of weeks later. Yeah. Okay, I was at week 12, and I was thinking, oh my God, I have a scan next week. I have to tell him I'm pregnant. So we went to Brooks, imagine Brooks in Carlo, and he was in good form, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna have to tell him, and he's in good form, so this will go grand. I was like, so how you feeling? Like how you feeling out of 10? And he went, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm about a 6. So I went, a 6, and he was like, yeah, why? And I was like, you were 6 in Jeff's. I was like, why are you? And I was like, look, I have to tell you I'm pregnant now. Obviously, he was thrilled. But it just goes to show, I suppose, where I knew how bad he was, and just how much the extra stress could have affected him. And I was just trying to protect him for as long as I could.
If I'm honest, yeah, I was. Sorry again, you go, Ken.
No, for Marina, what, like, if you're concerned over the stresses that Andy would or could be going under. Surely then that decision that you're holding on to from 6 weeks to 12 weeks, it's still a lot of time. It's a lot of time for you to like 6 weeks for anybody is a long time. It's a lot of time for you to think and try and process where he's at, knowing what you know that he definitely doesn't know or hasn't seen the signs of in Andyland. So between those couple of weeks, that's got to be touchy territory for you personally.
I didn't care at all. Like I never thought of myself at all during any of this. It was always every day is how to make, you know, him have a good day, or to make him that bit easier, life easier for him, because he was just going through so much physically and emotionally, mentally. There was enough to be dealing with. So if you do whatever you can to try and help your partner. And if that was just one little thing that I could just put off for another week until he was having a good, you know, because each week you genuinely think maybe he'll be better next week, or maybe, you know, each month. So I was just trying to not just, I suppose, stretch it out to kind of think, you know, he'll handle this a bit better than when. But you know, you just start to realize that day mightn't be. So you
again, I think you know, when you did tell me she was pregnant, I do remember, like, I was scared.
You were.
I was really trying, again, be that partner for Marina as well.
It's because you want to be the best version of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you weren't, and you couldn't be. You weren't able to be.
So again, it kind of went back to that, like, from wanting to get back fighting to wanting to be able to have a coffee and a conversation, to now being able to say, okay, I have 9 months. Well, actually less than 9 now, because I've been told 12 weeks. I have 6 months to try. So I had a goal in mind. Like, okay, Brooke is going to be born. We didn't have a name at the time, but I have another child on the way, and I know what that entails. And I really need to try and be back to my health to be able to be a good parent.
And I didn't want to put that pressure on him.
So I kind of nearly subconsciously I put that pressure on myself again at that stage. But this is all again without having any diagnosis at this stage. You know, it was only even after Bellator came. Like, I didn't even have a diagnosis for Lyme disease.
And like you talk about family, like our family would obviously know everything that was going on, but they still kind of forget, you know. You know, they might say, "Oh God, Andy's after his weight. Randy to pay." You know, these little things where you genuinely forget. And like I used to forget sometimes until I'd see, you know, or touch his hand and he's freezing. So like, it's very easily, when this is going on over 4 years, it is easy to forget, because we're trying to put on the happy face and get on with things and open the gym and do all of that. So, you know, you can understand people forgetting, but there was friends, close friends, that didn't even know, because like I said, where do you start with it all? Unless you're willing to like sit down and have an hour's conversation about it all, and then you still don't have a name or what it is, you know, it's just a whole load of symptoms. So that, you know, there was just friends that I just didn't keep it from them, but it's like, what's the point in trying to get into it all?
And that's kind of a sad thing too, because I have lost. Not that I've lost a lot of friends, but like, you drift away.
You pull back because you're avoiding social situations, and that's the reality. So if there's nights out or if there's events, it's just easier not to go, because Andy couldn't. He actually couldn't handle being in a pub with all this noise and sounds. It was just getting too much for him. And if he couldn't even enjoy having a coffee or a tea with me, drinks in a bar and dinner, it was too much. It was
a real turn off. Like I said, yeah. The idea of like loud places and that, like, was really affecting me again, because the fullness in the left ear and all of that sort of stuff was nightmare. Fullness in the back of the head, I was finding it really, really tough. It was a real struggle. But even after Bellator, like, if I go back to after Bellator, like, went to Dan again, and then I got a lumbar puncture, like, you know. So again, a spinal tap, like, you know. And it's lumbar puncture. So I go to work, I teach my class. At the time I was teaching in the morning. I had a hit to fit class at 6:30 in the morning. And then I drove to Dublin. And so I didn't drive to Dublin. So my mother brought me to Dublin. I lied. My mother brought me to Dublin, because to get a spinal tap with a lumbar puncture, you need someone to be able to drive you back home. But so my mom drove me home anyway. But I was back in the gym that night after getting a lumbar puncture. And again, you're meant to be lying flat for a week nearly after it, like, as in, like, because you got it, like, fluid is taken from your spine, and then they say that, like, fluid comes from your brain, and then that can affect and have migraines and all that if you're not lying down. So what happened was, I went in the gym that night. I was teaching then at 5:15, and then at 6:15, and then at 7:15. I had Urban Box, I had BJJ, and I had MMA. I taught all 3 classes. In between each class, I was lying down on the couch with a banging headache, and then I lie down and the headache would miraculously go, because that's the way that it works. When you're lying down flat, it's grand because the fluid is all there. When I got up, then the headache would go, or would be back. But again, I would just fight through each class, and that whole week recovering, I was in teaching classes, and in between each class, I was lying down on the couch, and I'd get back up to go and welcome people into the gym because it was my job. I didn't have anybody covering me or anything like that. But these are all stories that are all part of this whole mad journey. And at that time, I was still trying to get a diagnosis for something that I didn't have a clue what the hell was going on. You know, and what happened then was finally we got a consultation with Jack Lambert.
Yeah, so Jack Lambert's name came up with Crowley, wasn't it? So
yeah.
That was the first time we heard of Lambert's name. And then we realised that he was the only Lyme disease specialist in Ireland, and there was a waiting list. So we tried to get on that waiting list, and I remember the nurse or the secretary emailing to say, look, he stopped taking names. Remember that? And I sent an email. Actually, I don't think I told him at the time. I just sent an email.
Desperate.
I'm just pleading with them just to see him. And so then she emailed a while later and said that he'd opened his book again and he was taking appointments. And then COVID happens. And what's that? Oh, he took bloods, yeah. Oh, yeah, he took bloods taken, in to go to Germany. But when we eventually got on his list, COVID came, and he's a disease specialist, and he's on, Matt Cooper and Primetime and all these things where you're like, oh my God, he's now the busiest man in Ireland. We are never going to see him. But anyway, we did get an appointment eventually, and we were so happy. That was the first time we went to a doctor and didn't have to talk. When we went in, he told us, you're probably feeling, you've probably had fatigue, and you've probably had the stiffness in the neck. And he just named out all of these things, and just within minutes, I remember me and I just looking at each other, and we both started to tear up, because it was just this weight off our shoulders that, oh my God, not only is somebody listening, he knows, and he has an answer and a treatment. And it was such a relief. Do you remember? I remember leaving the office that day. We practically skipped back to the car. You're after being told you have Lyme disease, but we were so relieved.
We had something. See, what happened, Ken, was as well, before we went to Jack Lambert, we had to get bloods done. We had to get bloods. Part of when you see Dr. Lambert is that you have to get bloods sent to Germany. There's a laboratory called Armin Labs. Mm-hmm. So we had to send this package. Again, my mom and dad were amazing. They helped me out massively, all this sort of stuff, supported me in that. But I had to get more bloods done. And what's kind of sad is that I actually had to go back. Where I had to get my bloods done was the very first doctor's place. And I remember the secretary and the receptionist looking at me when I went in the door. And I could see the look of it, oh, not this guy again. And I felt really low, if I'm honest, going in, getting them bloods done that day, because they're asking me all these questions as to, oh yeah, but you've had bloods before, and what's the story? And I was like, because I said, look, can you just please take these have to be sent. I have to send these to Germany. And they were nearly questioning me as to why you send them there. You've already had bloods done in Ireland, and they've come back clear. So why are you doing this? But I said, look, could you please just take them? I have to get these done to be able to see this infectious disease specialist. So finally managed to get them done anyway, sent away. They came back from Germany anyway. Now, at this stage, Lyme disease is actually, they say, is actually quite easy to cure if you nab it, as in you can identify it within the first couple of weeks, because you get put on a course of antibiotics and your symptoms will pretty much heal, So if you got acute Lyme within the first week or two, if you notice that you got a bullseye rash or any signs, symptoms that you can relate to Lyme, you're seeing early, you get it done, then you're going to be fine. The problem I had was I got my blood sent back from Germany. So you imagine this, I'm showing my first signs and symptoms in 2017, and I only get my bloods done in 2020. I get back from Germany, it shows chronic Lyme. So that's what my bloods came back from Germany, with chronic Lyme. So it's at a chronic stage. It's been in my system a long time. So when I saw Jack that day, the first appointment I had with Jack, said, well, Lyme is the it's a very deceptive disease, because the problem is when you get into the blood, where does the blood go? Blood travels everywhere in your body, travels up to the head, your feet. So all these signs and symptoms you have in terms of the brain fog, pulls in the ear, ties in the back of the neck, get into your musculature system.
It just gets everywhere, and
exactly.
affects every part.
So it affects every part. So again, even into the bowels, into the gut, it's just, and you hear these stories from people. I've read lots of stuff. I'm actually on a group called TikTok Ireland. It's quite a name, isn't it? But it's good that there's a community of people who have all been affected by this and have all got very similar symptoms, signs, all this sort of stuff. And I read a lot of these stories, and it's really traumatic, because I've been suffering for this since 2017. Some of these people went undiagnosed for 10 years. Some of them have had Lyme disease for a very, very long time. I've been dealing with it. Some of them are literally bedbound all the time. And like I said, when I went to Jack that day, and he was there with me and Marina, and was just so reassuring. Like, we go back to the very start of this podcast, I said about reverse engineering goals. Mm-hmm. He was able to say, okay, you've got this. This has been in your system this length of time. It's going to take time for this to get out of your system. I had to fill in a questionnaire as to how I was feeling and all that. Like, basically, so every time I would go back to him every 3 months, I'd fill in the same questionnaire. And full enough, no worries about it. I've improved massively. And now I feel like a completely different Andy to the Andy this time last year. I feel like $1 million right now. If you told me back when I was crying in a toilet in Zakynthos, I would feel how I feel right now. If you would offer me how I feel right now, then, because okay, Andy, you won't fight professionally again. Your career will be over that, but you'll be a lot healthier. You'll be able to do a few workouts. You'll be whatever. I would have bit your hand off. So a year on from that, like, I'm still on antibiotics now. I'm still on very hard hitting antibiotics. I'm on my 12th month of them right now, because my Lyme disease is in a chronic stage. So I've 1 more month, and I see Jack at the end of this month, and that's why we're doing the podcast now, because I go and see Jack at the end of this month, and I've been told that this should be my last month of antibiotics. So I've been taking it, which is great. But like, it's mad, because my weight at the start of say this time last year, I was 65.9 kilos, and now I'm back up to 75 kilos.
I've noticed that on the Facebook page and on Instagram, there's been an awful lot more shirtless Andy Murphy.
So like,
you were even standing in front of the mirror the other day with the phone going, "Look at me now."
Yeah, I'm back, baby. I'm back. I know, but
but that's got to be good for you, though. I mean, that's a confidence thing. That's a mindset thing. That's everything. Like,
I love seeing it. I love seeing that his confidence is back. And why shouldn't you feel good about yourself? You should. We all should. But because it's been taken from him, and now he has it back again, he's appreciating it so much more, his health so much more. And he's walking around like he used to, shoulders back and head up, and walking on the tip of his toes nearly. He's just, you're definitely.
I think, Joe, there's a saying, but there's a saying, and I remember even back when I was in the toilet crying my eyes out, I do remember nearly saying to myself, like, okay, Andy, imagine everything in your life was taken away from you right now, and you got it all back tomorrow. How good would you feel? As in, like, if Marina was taken away, Nathan was taken away, all my family were with me in Zakynthos were taken away. Well, Brooke wasn't there at the time. But like, if everyone was taken away from me and I was then to get back tomorrow, how would I feel? So right now, the fact that I'm back feeling, my weight is back up, because again, my body is now absorbing vitamins and minerals. My immune system, which was at rock bottom literally last year, all these markers have come back up. Like, I'm on like a serious course. I get it all the time when I go into Jerry in the pharmacy, and Adam's down here. He's brilliant with me. He's such a good guy. He's so helpful. He's so full of conversation. He's so supportive. But he's very honest with me as well. So Andy, I'm on a Rifidin, rifampicin antibiotic. I'm on tetralysyl, which is Lyme cycline. I'm on Zinat, and I take low dose naltrexone. 4 really hard hitting antibiotics. I then take Revive every morning, which again is prescribed by Dr. Lambert. I have to take my turmeric, my rhodiola, and then I have NAC then as well. So basically, the antibiotic is there, from what Lambert tells me anyway, is to kill the infection, to kill the disease. And what all the herbs and all that are there for is to improve my immune system. And then the other thing that I've done that has definitely helped all this stuff is I control the controllable myself. And I've said this all throughout the pandemic to people. We might be in the middle of a pandemic right now, but that doesn't mean we can't take care of ourselves. You know, so what I try and make sure that I do, because there's no point in me taking all this stuff that I've been prescribed and then going drinking alcohol,
or
eating crap, staying up really late, lying in, whatever. I literally just made sure that I give myself the best chance of healing. So I don't listen to negative stuff. I don't allow myself to surround myself with energy vampires, people that suck the life out of me. I surround myself with positive people. Even having this podcast for yourself, Ken, love having the chats, love having the communication with people who are going to raise my game, who are going to make me feel good. And like I said, putting a priority on my health so that I can give back to those around me then as well. So like I said, there's no point in being on all this prescription stuff and then eating crap.
And it's not about like
drinking.
Being vegan or anything like that. There's never a label on it. Like I've always said, we just eat what makes us feel good. And if something makes you feel crap, you know, it's same with alcohol. You know what's going to happen if you're going to feel crap. If you're okay with that, then that's fine. But what we were noticing is there was some foods or whatever would be a really bad trigger. So obviously we're just going to cut those out. You're not going to be having all these Revive Active and then just eating processed crap. Then you have to give yourself a fighting chance where possible. So eat clean, eat as much food that's going to benefit you.
I think the thing that I've really learned from this whole thing, Ken, as well, is like it's only when your health is impacted negatively that you appreciate feeling well. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I've really learned, and it's what I've done with the gym. You know, like it's just I've been through a lot in my life. Let's just say. Even when I go back to things like the physical injuries of the knee operations, I had 4 knee operations. And every time I was on crutches, people would ask me, "You okay?" "Yeah, geez, I'm all right." When I had, and I've had this, I've not had a bandage on my head. I've not had a big mad wrap around my head which says, "Oh, geez, Andy's sick." I've still been me. And no one's really known because I've been able to put on the mask of like, okay, I'll go in, I'll turn up, I'll show up, I'll do my job, I'll go home. Like I'm very good at doing that sort of stuff. But I guess that's why I'm doing this podcast tonight, is it like, just so that people understand that, like, you know, everyone is facing a battle we don't understand. This has been my battle, and I'm sharing it on this platform. A bit of a podcast following whatever with this. Now I can do this, and as you can tell, it's a lot more than just writing a post. So that's why I want to do a podcast on it, because there's been so many emotions throughout all of this. But like, I remember at one stage leading up to Bellator, still in the WT arena at the time. And I had 2 black eyes from sparring. It was actually a day that I was feeling bloody great. I actually felt great. It was a day that I felt good. And I remember being in the arena, and I think everybody that came through the turnstile that day into the gym stopped, looked at me 2 or 3 times, and just, "You all right? Or you gonna fight?" And I remember saying to every single person that day that asked me, I was like, okay, I said, "That's actually the best I've felt in 2 years." Would you believe that? So like in all that time, people come through terms like, yeah, it's not anybody else's fault for asking that, by the way. No, but I'm just trying to get it across. All people see is marks on my face, but I felt great, or I felt the best I felt in 2 years. You know what I mean? And that's something that I try and get across to people, is that, you know, as we said with the photograph and the Kintos and that, on the outside in, looking at an Instagram post, they have everything. You know, into Kintos, sun, sea, sand, family, beautiful wife, lovely son, fit, healthy child. I'm very grateful. I genuinely mean this. I'm very, very grateful that the people around me are healthy and well. That's at the end of the day, what I've learned through all this, like materials, like even for the gym, you take all the way, you strip everything back from the gym. A gym is just 4 walls and equipment. It's the people that make a gym. You know, you can't replace people, and that's something that's really hit home with all of this. And even now during the pandemic, with everything, like I said, that's going on, there's a lot of negativity there, all right, but there's still stuff that we can focus on to improve our own mental and physical health. You know, even when times are hard.
I think that was the hardest part for me, was Andy wasn't Andy. You know, and that's who I married, and that's, you know, and he just wasn't himself, which was hard for both of us. And you know, he's there, but he's not there. And I remember just when we said we'd do this podcast, trying to look back on dates and different things that we went through. And he came home there last week, and I was looking back on an email he had sent to Dr. Lambert, and there was a line in it that said, I just miss being me. And I was just welled up again, and I just started crying, just thinking that's how low things got, that he just wanted to be himself, like, just to exist just happily again. And it just really hit home that day all over again, didn't it?
Yeah, I think I remember writing as well. That was a line I said, I remember being like, I was 33, and I was like, I'm 33, I'm not 73. I want to thrive. I don't just want to survive.
Yeah.
Like a guy who's been so active, who like I said, I eat, sleep, train, repeat, love my family time, love my job in the arena, got on great with everybody, to literally turning away from people, not talking to people. As I said, I just wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
And now and again, when he puts posts up as well, people will actually message. So just randomly now and again, I try to say to him, especially when we open the gym, don't be talking about it too much, because who wants to hear, especially in your industry, people don't want to be hearing somebody who's sick, and they're going to you to feel well and to feel fit. They don't want to be hearing that you're sick. I know that sounds awful, but it's kind of, you know what I mean? It's like, don't keep putting it out there that you're not well.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why we kind of didn't talk about it a whole lot. And then as he kind of got through to Lambert and the different treatment, he'd put things up now and again, like over the last couple of months. And each time somebody would message and say, look, I'm dealing with this for the last 5 years or 10 years, and I'm only 20 something. And, can I get some advice on food, or can I get some advice on whatever? So it was just another reason we said, there's so many reasons, but another reason why we said we do this, because you just don't know who you could help. And like, we know that you've had me and family to lean on, and you need that. Like, if things get really, really bad, when they got low. So you need that support system. So if we can help somebody else, if there's, if you can, like you always do, you're great at doing voice messages to people to say, well, look, I cut out this and I added this. And, Lambert obviously was a massive help for us. Yeah. But if there's somebody you can help.
Yeah, that's been the big one, Ken, because it's been incredible, the messages I've got from people who have been diagnosed with Lyme, or who have gone through similar and aren't diagnosed, or haven't been diagnosed yet. I get, like, it takes a lot to get me angry. Like, it takes a lot, but there's been a couple of times now where I've read messages from people. I'm like, I can't believe this, and I see it. And the other sad thing is, I've had a lot of men message me with similar stuff, or that they've been diagnosed with it, and it's a real battle. Like, and I think the people who've been diagnosed, I see as being lucky, because you then have, and I say it on my voice messages, and look, you're like, look, you're lucky you've been diagnosed with it, because now you can reverse engineer. You have a diagnosis. There's a plan there in place. Like, everything does pass with time, but you have to give yourself the best possible chance. And I do think even people who get to see, Jack Lambert or whatever, if they've got Lyme, while he will give you tools, as in, like, the antibiotic and the herbs and all that, you have to give yourself the best possible chance of fighting this, because this gets into every cell of your being. If you're unfortunate enough to get to a stage of chronic Lyme, it is in your system a long time, and it's going to take your body time to basically flush out this horrible disease. Like, I'm still battling through it. I'm still going to be going through, like, this will be my last month of antibiotics, touch wood. But when I finish antibiotics now, I'm going to be going through another little battle, because now I'll only be on the herbs. I won't have the boost of the antibiotic killing this disease, whatever. So I still have to give my body the best chance. And what I've done with the podcast and when I message people is say that this hasn't happened overnight to where I'm feeling a lot better right now. Like, I'm probably about 80%, I'd say, of my 100% self. I may never get to 100%, and that's what Dr. Lambert said to me as well on the very first day. So you might not get to 100%, but I can get you to 70. And I was like, I will deal at that. If I'm playing deal or no deal, I'm dealing right now. I'll take that, because I know my 70% is a lot better than a lot of people's 100%. So I was like, if I can be at 70%, Andy, I'm happy with that. But I do feel like I'm getting there, and I'm a lot better than I was. But like I said, there's been a lot of people out there really struggling. A lot of people who, if you've had certain appointments. I've read different articles from, there's, I think, 2 lads in Enniscorthy. I read a recent newspaper article, and I read their story, and it was so literally mirror image of mine. One guy said that he was a father and hasn't got to really enjoy the 3 years of his child's life so far, and I could relate to that. The whole idea of you're not feeling well, but then people start maybe saying, it's all in your head, and it's not in your head, because again, if any doctor was to look properly at my history, they'd say, okay, well, I don't make things up. I'm not a hypochondriac. I'm not someone that goes and Googles that stuff. You know, we said about Google there. I would not have been someone to go and do that in the past. It's only when you're at such a low state you're willing to do anything to get yourself better. And I would do the same for Marina. I'd do the same for any loved one of mine. I'm very fortunate. I've got a family that's supportive of me and knew the way that I am, because thank God I didn't take the antidepressant tablet, because that was not the way out, and that's nothing against. We're all going to go through hard times. We're all going to feel sad. We're all going to feel low. There's nothing wrong with taking an antidepressant.
No,
you need an antidepressant. It just wasn't the answer that I needed at that time. I knew there was something else.
Your own body, don't you?
You do. I say that even with people in the gym and that. You have to learn to read your own body. No one knows your body like you, and that's what I had to cling to when I was seeing all these different specialists. They may be a specialist in a certain field, but I'm a specialist on my own body. I know how it works. So when I did get to see Dr. Lambert and he went through all the stuff, I was like, geez, okay, well, this. And again, I guess getting the bloods done from Germany and then it coming back with a legitimate chronic Lyme, that was, I was like, okay, well, it didn't matter what else I was doing that before that, it was not going to heal this. I needed this treatment to get me to where I am right now, so thankfully we're getting there. For people who are listening or are watching that, like you said, there are people who have this, maybe now 5 years, 10 years, it's a lifelong thing. It's either diagnosed or it's worst case for them. It's been going on longer and it's completely undiagnosed. And then they hear all of these things, and you've had a pathway to solutions that have gone through doctors and pharmacists and neurologists and more specialists and more consultants, and a 12-month case of hard-hitting antibiotics and herbs and vitamins and all of this kind of stuff. Not to pry into like financial matters or anything, but surely this stuff all adds up. I mean, even let's say you get up to the diagnosis stage, and then post-diagnosis stage when you've got to start taking this stuff on a monthly basis to to kind of get a full control of it. Have you an idea on what, even if it's a kind of a general like hundreds or thousands, what it may have cost you to get to the diagnosis? And then what it costs you?
It's definitely in the thousands. Like if you think like all of these specialists, they're around 250 a pop. And look, I don't mind paying that if I get an answer. Not even an answer, but if somebody says to me, no, it's not this, I'll expect them to kind of go, okay, but it could be this, or have you tried this, or would you consider going to this person? But when it's like, okay, no, bye, next. Yes. That is so hard to take that, because you're like, okay, now where do I turn? Now who do I turn to? So I stopped calculating after about 5,000. It's definitely closer to 10. I mean, when you think of all of those, and you're taking time off work, like I said, and going to Dublin or Cork or wherever. But even then, when we got to see Lambert, the Armin Labs, that's so expensive to send your blood to Germany. And we had to do it twice. Then to see Lambert, and then the medication. Every time he goes down to Adamstown, like it's crazy the amount of money. I just stopped counting because I don't care now. No. He's better. So you can't
put a value on it.
No, if you go for a meal and it's horrible, it doesn't matter. You'll just be all your memories that you hated it or it wasn't enjoyable. And if you went for a meal and you enjoyed it, you don't care what it costs because you're happy. It's like that. That's what I always say. Like, you can't put a price on this. It was like a waste up until, but priceless in another way because we got there eventually, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, if you had said to me 4 years ago, give me 10 grand, I'll make Andy better, and you can skip the next 4 years of heartache, I would have just handed that straight over. I had
it's
do you
true
know what I mean?
Absolutely. And if I'm honest, Ken, that was another hard part for me personally at times, was that when I wouldn't get the answer, I would feel like, okay, because I'm the man of the house as well, and like, you know, I still have that kind of, there's a bit of an old school mentality of that, okay, you want the breadwinner and this and that. I'm the one that's costing the family money or not. It was never a problem. Marina never had a problem. My family never, you know, again, my mom and dad, Marina's mom and dad have always just had my health first and foremost. And I'm very, very grateful and very lucky that I have that.
Anything. It's
absolutely, you know, because you need, your support network is everything when you're going through any sort of trauma. I'm sure in life, those around you will either pull you up or they'll drag you down. And I've been very lucky that people have been literally been my second life jacket. You know, they've been keeping me afloat. That's how I probably look at this. You know, because it's been very hard. Like as Marina said, each specialist, you know, you're going to them and just even get like an appointment with them without a treatment. And most appointments where you sit down, like that one for 15 minutes was €250. I'm thinking, okay, one, I'm in the wrong profession, but two, like, how can you expect this to heal something and somebody in 15 minutes? Like, you know, it's very tough. But yeah, financially it's horrible. But what I'd say to people out there is that you just can't put a value on your health. Like, you really can't. Like, as Marina said, for definitely 3 years anyway, the last year has been a lot better. But for 3 years, she lost her husband, you couldn't really say, right? She lost who she married. And I was very well aware of that as well. And you know, people even maybe that were workmates of mine in the arena and stuff, they started to see a different Andy. And then I feel really bad as well, because when I was training at Team Radical Kenny with Miles and Mick, there's lots of times I would get really like angry on the mat. Like, you know, you get submitted in training, it's never a problem. You know, as in like you tap, you learn, you know, this whole win or learn and all that. And say, yeah, good job, man, whatever. I was getting submitted sometimes in training, or I'd be getting out wrestled or, you know, out rolled and stuff. And I'd get really annoyed and I'd sometimes lash out and stuff. And I started to see, I was like, that's not me. And I wouldn't be lashing out at the person, let's just say.
No, you're getting annoyed.
I was getting annoyed at myself. And what I had to start doing then was, what I did then was I removed myself from that situation. So, because again, I didn't want to be seen as Andy the dick, the guy that's like, you know, getting annoyed at being submitting training or whatever. My anger was coming from within. It was because I was really upset that my own body was letting me down and I couldn't do what I wanted to do. So that was what was really hurtful for me and what was a real battle. And again, the same with the arena and stuff. So what I really needed to do, and as I have done, is just try to create an environment for me to heal and for me to thrive in. And, you know, we're getting there. Like, it's still a work in progress. But like I said, like, definitely better days ahead. And to anybody who's going through similar to me, or who's maybe not been diagnosed or is diagnosed right now, or is just battling any illness right now, just know that like we are in constant change. Your hand never touches the same river. You know, whether even someone's on health and fitness goals or like losing weight, this, that, you know, not seeing initial changes straight away. Just because you're not seeing them straight away doesn't mean that the change isn't happening. And again, that's maybe where something simple journaling can come in handy, where you write things down, because you sometimes forget, as we have tonight, we've been talking on this podcast, there's been loads of different areas that, you know, but yeah, it's been a crazy road, you know, but we're still here.
With the antibiotics, just to come back to that, if the next dose that you get is your last dose, does that mean from him that there's like, is there a way that this goes from like chronic Lyme, let's say, take it back to COVID levels, and let's say that you're at level 5, and then at like level 1 is the kind of like baby Lyme stuff. So if you're at that like level 5 and you've had the 12 months of this, and he says he's able to go to you and say, that's enough, the antibiotics have done enough to do to do what? Like where do you know where that brings you down a particular level? Or?
Well, I think the reality is, and from my last phone call, because again, with our appointments with Dr. Lambert, we had been in person with him, and then COVID obviously came in. Within the different levels and all that, and this most obviously recent level 5 lockdown, we weren't able to travel. The previous one, we were able to travel and see him in person. I get bloods done with Dr. Lambert there as well. So every 3 months he checks bloods so that basically you can stay on these antibiotics, like I said, because they are very hard hitting. Actually, after 6 months, I had to stop on one antibiotic because bloods came back slightly. There's some elevation in some area. I can't remember what it was. I had to stop doing the rifampicin immediately. So I had to stop that. Then I was able to get back onto it then after 9 months, I think it was. So the thing is, I can't stay on these antibiotics forever. Like I said, they're extremely hard hitting on the gut. I would prefer probably not to be on antibiotics, but I'm also well aware of the job that they're doing for my body. Like they've certainly helped to kill this, as much of this disease anyway as possible, to get me back where I can think straight and I can operate. And I can write things like a book. I can write my training programs. I can be present. I can enjoy going in and training. Something that Jack has said to me all the time as well is that, like, do read your body, because with Lyme as well, you can get obviously chronic effects of fatigue as well. So if you over push the limit, if I was to go back and do my training 2 times a day, 6 times a week, I'd probably be back in, like, struggling a lot. So I don't train as hard as I used to. It's taking a step back. It's reading the body.
Too far.
And I've done it once or twice in this last year where I have felt pretty good and I've pushed a bit hard, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I realize I shouldn't have done that. But again, it's from journaling and that then that's helping with that. But your question is obviously to okay, is things fully healed and all that? The answer to that is probably not. It's not the case, but at the same time, you can't stay on these antibiotics forever. And there comes a stage where your immune system has to be able to take over now a bit. And I've built my immune system back up a lot in the last year as a result of the herbal treatment, which has been building back up my immune system. The sleep, the rest. Also, I have to say too, like the COVID, while it's been a challenge for a lot of us in a business sense, it's been tough in a health sense for me personally. It's probably been pretty good that it's been closed the last year for me personally, whereby I've been able to go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time every day. I've been able to eat properly. I've not been teaching 23, 24 classes a week in the gym. So my activity level has been reduced from that sense. So in many ways, business-wise, it's not been super, but health-wise, it's been really it's been a bit of a blessing to me for me to be able to bring back my optimal health. So in many ways, when I get to reopen the gym, whenever that may come, whenever that may happen, I don't think people have seen the best version of me yet. Like, it's mad. The people in New Ross and Urban Gym members and all that, they've only seen Lyme, Andy, and they've not even known, they wouldn't have even known. They'd probably think I'm mad anyway. This guy full of energy. But that's my job. It's all I've done. It's all I know, Ken. I've done this since I'm like 16, 17, since I was on work experience in Greenbank Electrical. I've done this every year, helping people, being full of life, being the guys on the side of protein aerobics, doing HIIT sessions, doing strength and conditioning, coaching teams, training teams, PTs, small groups, driving my car to people's houses to do one-to-one PTs. It's all I know. So I've been able to do that while I've been sick, but I cannot wait to be able to do it while I can thrive and really help people. So I'm excited for what's to come.
Well, that makes a lovely positive note.
Yeah. But I think I did read something today. Again, I love reading. I do.
Yeah, that you're able to read again.
Yeah, no, but
not to make light of it, but yeah, no.
Right.
I was reading a quote there, the whole idea of coming out of trauma. Like, some people deal with trauma, and they're kind of, to use the analogy, like, some people deal with trauma like they're an egg, like a soft egg. Like, you drop the egg and then it splatters on the ground and just become a yolk and just be stuck on the ground. And then some people deal with trauma like a ball. You drop the ball. What happens as a result of the trauma? It bounces back higher. So you can make a decision. Are you going to be an egg? Or are you going to be the ball? And I think in many ways I'm the ball here. I'm just saying, I'm coming back fair enough, I might not be able to reach my athletic heights of MMA and professional fighting career and stuff, but I can create something for myself, my family, and the people around me. I can, as a result of the trauma I've been through, I can create something better out of it. So I think that's been a real thing, you know, and I would say that to a lot of people is that, like, you know, when we grow through what we go through, and sometimes, you know, you think you've been buried when actually really been planted, like. And I don't think, like, and to be totally honest, like, and this is I know it's really cheesy, wasn't it? Really American or something.
No.
But like,
that's in that book that you were talking about, right?
But genuinely, like, Urban Gym wouldn't be here right now if I hadn't gone through Lyme. I'd probably still be fighting right now because I had no plans on retiring. I genuinely, I was like, I am just coming in. I'm just starting here. Like, you know, when I came back from Alpine, I was like, my career's only just taking off here. I cannot wait. Like, I'm in my prime. Like, you know, fight career. I think as you get older, you get better because you become wiser and you're not all just pure brute force. You start to really think and you become, you know, really kind of clued into the technical aspect of the sport rather than just trying to take somebody's head off. I mean, instead of trying to finish an armbar, you're starting to focus on, okay, what are the tweaks to get me into that position to finish the armbar or whatever. Like, you know, it's where Miles is very good as well. Like, Miles, obviously, people listen, Miles Price, like, you know, teammate Miles is very good at, like, breaking down the details of stuff. But you know, that's like something that I've really kind of like I said, I would love to have kept the MMA career going, but my body just won't allow me to do it the level that I need to do. But like I said, I can create something now with the gym whereby
we would have done it eventually.
Eventually.
We were just like, let's just do it now.
But the time was probably right as well, Ken, with everything and with us opening the gym at the time, you know, from what I had seen anyway, from doing research to open the gym, there wasn't a gym similar to ours whereby it was trying to really create a place where you want to go around for you have to, a place like a real happy place, real thriving environment where it wasn't all about like who can lift the heaviest weight or ego or this or that. It was more about what you look like, or, you know, it was a place. I wanted to create a place where you could go in, you could switch off for 45 minutes to an hour of your day. It could be that third space whereby you don't need to worry about your work, your stress at work, your family, anything. It's just your space for an hour where I can create hopefully the best hour of your day. And that's what I wanted with the gym. And it kind of built me.
Feel good.
Yeah. And it kind of came as a result of the trauma. It fast tracked me to that. So, and again, at the time, there was no gym in our area anyway. There was like an industrial unit and, you know, open space. And just, like I said, I just wanted to create a hub, a real hub of just positivity amongst the chaos that I was going through. Yeah. Because again, I just saw it as an opportunity as well to be like, okay, well, like, why not try and feel good in what you're doing, you know? And I always say that to when I was managing in Whites or Wexford, and even when I was doing operations in the arena, I was like, you spend, like, you know, the majority of time in your life, you spend a lot of your time or more time in work than you get to spend with your family a lot of the time. So you need to somewhat way enjoy doing what you do. And I love this. I love dealing with people. I love helping people. So I wanted to do that. So we set it up. And again, it probably wouldn't, Urban Gym would have been created only for me going through Lyme. It probably would have been put off a few years. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I guess it fast tracked the whole gym setup, and here we are now on the podcast, I guess. So maybe it might give some people out there who are really struggling with the Lyme battle or with an illness or anything like that, just to know that there's still opportunities out there to do something, and you can still create something for yourself whereby you have a real purpose, and everybody, I say all the time in a lot of our posts that, you know, nobody is you, and that's your superpower. So use it. Like,
well, I think if anything, hearing that and knowing everything that you were going through in the run up to the opening of the gym, and I say you in the broad sense, as in both of you, that you can get through all of that, and you can open the gym and create a business and create a community and sustain things over a shocking period in your lives and in everybody else's lives, with everything else that people have had to deal with for the last 12 months and more. With you coming back with this coming back is probably the wrong phrase, but with this return of focus and drive and clarity and energy and positivity and everything else, it creates maybe kind of a frightening scenario for the people of New Ross when they see that going to be like amazing things that are happening for the latter stage of 2021 and beyond. If you can do all of that when you're absolutely under the cosh of all kinds of things, now to have a lot of that fog lifted and a clear way of dealing with Lyme and having adjusted your life and adjusted your day-to-day stuff, it's great. I love it. I love hearing it, but I love it.
But you've been a big part of that as well, Ken. You know, you've been a big part of that as well. Like, even going back to, like, you know, we were doing random rhinos. And I remember when I was ruled out of the fight for Bama, we ended up doing a podcast. Me, you, Miles, Mick, and Rich. You know, we're doing sports psychology then, talking all about that. Like, showing it's been a serious journey to, like I said, be able to have a proper conversation tonight about it all. You know, I know we're going off on certain tangents, like, you know, because bar writing it all down exactly format. This hasn't been plain sailing. I wish I could stand here or sit here tonight and say, okay, this is what happened with this. But the reality of the situation is, it's been so many detours that it's not been straightforward. And maybe, hopefully, people who listen to it tonight, just, okay, went off here, went that. But it's been that way for 4 years, whereby there's just ever changing. And as I've said, this is my battle with Lyme disease. I know there's a lot of people out there going through a lot worse or whatever. But what I will say to people is this, is that, you know, when someone's going through the worst stage of their life, the thing to understand is, like, that's the worst stage of their life. For example, my daughter, Brooke, if she, I don't know, drops her toy or something for the first time, that is the worst part of her life at that time. That's why she's crying like a lunatic. And it's just trying to understand that, okay, Brooke, it's going to be okay. And sometimes it's just nice when you're not feeling great to have someone around you that supports you and says, look, it's going to be all right. And I'm very lucky that the lady beside me has always been that way, even through the real hardship, because it has been really tough. And I've not been, through this, thankfully, I've not been on my own. But I know some people out there who message me with their own stories that they have been on their own. And I just want people maybe listen to this night that are maybe on the TikTok group, might get this, or someone might pick up on this somewhere, that if they are stuck or they're in that situation, like I was on holiday in Zakynthos, crying in a bathroom, Mr. MMA fighter with cauliflower ears. It's apparently a tough guy then. Like, don't be afraid to pick up the phone and send me a message. Chances are, not chances, you will get a voicemail back from me. Because I just feel really passionate about this, and I genuinely do hope to help some people from this. Like, that's the main aim from tonight. Like, you know, because I don't want anybody to go through what I had to go through. I genuinely wouldn't want that. I'm, like I said, my worst enemy. Not that I have any enemies. I keep saying that, but that would be that really.
Marina, any closing words?
I don't think so. The whole idea was, you know, we always get people on here to tell their story, and we said this is the perfect opportunity to tell our story and to try squeeze 4 years of everything into a podcast. But you know, it'll just give people more of an insight into, I suppose, our personal lives and what we've been going through, as well as what they see on Instagram, and there's that reality there as well. So
why do we eat what we eat, do what we do, post what we post? You know, I'm always saying, you know, maybe, like I said, no one's you, that's your superpower. I don't ever, again, another thing I want to say is, I don't identify as a vegan or a vegetarian or plant-based or this and that. I've always said that.
You do you.
Do you.
Do what suits you. Do what you feel good.
Absolutely. It's all about, like, how you feel is where it's at. Richard Shannon always told me that. And I remember always having the earphones on and just visualizing how good it feels to feel good about yourself. And there's nothing wrong with feeling good about yourself. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I try and instill in people is that, like, you know, for workouts in the gym, not every workout has to be a killer. And it's okay to take a rest. And it's okay to go for a walk. You don't have to do a crazy HIIT session. You don't have to go and do mad sparring if you're an MMA fighter. There's other things we can focus on right now. The gyms are closed, for example, but we can still read a book. We can still put the headphones on, listen to a good podcast. We can improve our mindset. We can improve our flexibility. We can improve relationships with those around us. There's so much that we can work on. A gym is just a tool. I'm just talking in the general sense of urban gym. A gym is just a tool. It's an attribute that people can use to improve their physical health or whatever. You can meet people, there's lots of things there. But, we have I say this to people when I meet them as well. We have all the attributes and tools we need to get to wherever we need to go to. We just need to use them, And I think something that happened for me with Lyme disease and getting to that final, that diagnosis was that I just never gave up. I never gave up hope of one day finding out what the hell is wrong. I knew something was wrong. I just need to get to the bottom of it. When I get to the bottom of it, I'll make sure I do the best I can to become a better version of me. And that's kind of where we're at now. And I guess I know I'm rambling. I always do. I'm sorry.
I always love when I'm in the
closing remarks, Marina.
I always love when we're doing I'm in the living room listening to the podcast and Ken says, any closing words? And Andy says, I always go back to the time. And I'm like,
1986.
40 minutes later, we're still here. Yeah.
On that note.
Thanks so much for for hosting it and listening to our story. And I know it was a bit of a low one, but it's good to get it out there. And like I said, I cannot believe I didn't cry because I was totally expecting to cry during this because it's been so emotional. And I thought there'd be some trigger to set me off. But I genuinely think it's because Andy's been so well lately. And we're in a really good place with the gym and with everything. And a baby on the way. So it's...
Just that small detail.
yeah, not a baby.
But,
so there's a lot to be thankful for and a lot to be happy about. So thank you as well for the podcast.
Well, on that note, as opposed to any other note, this has been your podcast. It's actually been their podcast. It has been your podcast from Urban Gym and urbangym.ie. You can find this episode in video format and audio format on all good platforms, especially on the website urbangym.ie. Keep an eye on the Facebook page, Instagram, and anywhere else that you can get your hands on anything urban related. You guys have got the new jumpers, you've got the new books, you've got the new recipe packs, you've got all the kinds of crack that's going on. And I know there's loads more that's going to come. But we will do this again next month. So until next time, good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.